know AJ from the old Bitboy network, but of course, both Bitboy and AJ are now doing their own thing. We're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about rebranding. We're going to talk about, doing our own thing. We're going to talk about crypto, price action, Bitcoin ETF speculation, a whole bunch of news, and so on. But, let's get it started with, how are you, AJ? And welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks so much for having me. I've known you for quite some time now. You've been on my radar. I mean, when I first even got into Algorand, you were one of the people that, like, when I was just starting, that like kind of extended the olive branch to me and was always super kind about it. And, it's people like you in this space that like kind of set an example on like the way to treat people who are newer and try to coming up. So I like try to replicate that for people, especially when they ask like, oh, like, how did you get started? Or like, what do you use? What camera do you use? What mic do you use? It's like those like kind of like starting off questions that like, man, you helped me so much. Like early, like a year ago, I have 2,000 followers on Twitter this time last year. And
probably something like that.
Yeah.
I think you have more than me now at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I'm
right.
Almost.
You're a lot more active on Twitter than I am at this point, though. I post like the shows I'm doing and things like that, but not as active as I was when I first started Twitter. But absolutely, I feel like that's the type of grace that you want to extend to anybody. I mean, when I first started, I'll be honest, I reached out to a couple people asking for advice on cameras, software, things like that, and there were a lot of people that were holding that information close to their chest, like they didn't want to, let their secrets out, so to speak, and have competition in the space that were, doing things that could compete with their viewership. And, I just felt like that wasn't really the way to go, especially if we consider crypto to be something that's going to be, it already is global, but it's going to be adopted at a level that, the pie is going to be big enough for all of us to eat. So I kind of felt like that was a scarcity mindset in a world of abundance, so to speak. So I definitely appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I mean, totally, dude. Like, it's all about like giving back to your community and like trying to, if you're like, I kind of feel like there's like the people at the very, very top that, kind of have like it's like rock solid for them. Like they have this formula, so to speak, and they're sticking to it. They do what they do. But even those people, like once you get to know them and like you really get to know them, they are open. They're not closed books, like gatekeeping. I feel like some people kind of gatekeep their information. They, like you said, like they don't want to tell you their secrets. And then there's a lot of people that will like just open book, tell you everything. Cause I could tell you everything about my day, how I operate, what I do, my plans, whatever, but it's up to you to do the work. I've been straight grinding crypto full-time job for like 3 years now. So it's like, now I'm to a point where it's just like how, I finally have my own YouTube page that's been coming for a long time. Everyone knows it. I think the amount of
give that a shout out. What's the name of your YouTube page? Oh, right behind you, AJWritesCrypto, same as the Twitter. Go follow them. Go follow AJ if you're not already. It's a new channel. We're going to help build that up. Do you want to talk about that a little bit as well? Your journey from the Bitboy network to your own channel. Of course, you're still friends with Ben. You're still working with Ben, but you're more independent than you were back then. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Just to finish my last thought, it was just like one of those things where like helping people come up, like it's also one of those things you have to like, when people give advice, use that advice. Like Wendy O called me on the phone and said, AJ, you need to be making a video every single day. And it doesn't mean anything if I don't take her advice. You know what I mean? And just yesterday I was in a Twitter space with Altcoin Daily, and he told me to make great content and make it again later. And I wrote it down and I have it right here on my little computer desk thing, like as a reminder, because when you get those nuggets of good advice from people in the space that are like at the top of the space, use that advice. So
and sometimes it seems so obvious, but then it's just like the reminder sometimes you just need that reminder that's like, you know what, you're right. Like I should just do this. But
and that has a lot to do like with my YouTube page. I've been on YouTube for like 5 weeks now. Right. And, right now I'm still doing most of my own editing. I'm doing all my own writing, all my own filming, all my own lighting. Like I have my girlfriend, the Glitter Queen, helping me now, but it's still like mostly like a one-man band here. And because of that, it's really tough for me to do. I do my live stream Monday through Friday every morning, but with pre-recorded videos, it's hard to do one every day. It's very hard to, and then you want to, just because I was really big on Twitter and that's like where I got my whole following coming up, and I still want to be really active on Twitter. I do the roundtable with Mario Nafal. I do spaces with Ben. I'm going to have my own spaces coming up in 2024. And it's just like, I don't like, if I do one good tweet, I don't want to say, all right, there's my tweet for the day. My hands are washed. Make great content and make it again later. Like, keep going. And you can even steal from yourself some crazy good idea, a tweet from 6 months ago that did really good. Like, just like find a way to put a spin on what you did, make it again later. Like, I think that, doubling down on my own stuff and, really focusing on like checking every box every day is my goal, but it's a lot to do when you're juggling it all by yourself. So I will get to a point eventually where, I'll hire more people. I'll probably never hire a writer because I'm the best there is. But other than that, I
like that confidence.
Though. Yeah, but with editing and stuff like that, I definitely will need help. But yeah, so you asked about becoming more independent. This was the best thing that's ever happened to me. The fallout between Ben and TJ was the best thing that ever happened to me. At Hit Network, I wasn't allowed to take my own deals. I wasn't allowed to have any sponsors. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I couldn't start my own YouTube page and talk on YouTube. I couldn't do that. I was like definitely suppressed, but at the same time, everyone knew that I was friends with Ben. We did like this time last year, we were in the Bahamas for the first time, the whole SBF thing. Like Ben and I, like there was a point, over the past year and a half where like we stopped being employer and started being friends. And when that happened, I think he really saw like something in me that I guess a lot of the other people at Hit Network didn't see. I think they were like so focused on building up each other that they never really gave me an opportunity. I kind of like the spotlight, any light that I got there, I like fought for it. I earned it. Like it wasn't like given to me at all. And I think because I was suppressed for so long, that when I actually came out on my own and did my own YouTube page and did my own thing, like all the deals I never could have got before, all the sponsors I wasn't allowed to have before, that, the floodgates opened for me. And like, seriously, in the past 2 months, I made what it would take me 2 years to make at Hit Network in 2 months. So it's like, I'm best thing that ever happened to me. So, but at the same time, I sided with Ben from an ethical point of view. Ben is my friend. What they did to him was wrong. I mean, JT, imagine starting your YouTube page, this YouTube page we're talking on right now. You run it. It gets to 100,000 subscribers. You hire your friends to help you. You get to 1 million, and then they take it from you, and it's not yours anymore. Like that's what happened there. It's messed up. Like there's a lot of details that don't make Ben look good, and I can't defend everything he's ever done wrong. He's not perfect, but neither am I, neither are you, neither is anyone. But at the end of the day, what they did to him was like, I can't. There was a point where DZ was hosting and I was co-hosting, and it hit me that Ben, like I stayed at Hit Network for like an extra couple weeks, hoping Ben would come back. And once I realized Ben wasn't coming back, and I was co-hosting his show on his channel that he created, and they strong-armed him out of it. Nah, bro. Nope. Just ethically couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
I get it. I mean, I don't know how irate I would be if that ended up being the situation. I mean, of course, as you said, there's things people do that, that lead the path there, but ultimately I still think it was a bad move. It was the wrong move for them to do. But who knows? I mean, like you said, for you, it's working out. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise for Ben as well. Maybe he needed to, remove some of the people that, weren't the best around him and start his own thing and start anew again. So best of luck to the both of you for sure. Well, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I mean, Ben's content is better than it's ever been because it's not like a corporate decision with 5 people in his ear. I'm not even writing for Ben anymore. I wrote for Ben for 2 years. He's writing his own shit now. And his content's better than ever because it's him. You know what I mean? And that's great. Like we need the best creators in the space to be completely authentic. And Ben is in his zone right now. I got to give it to him. He's killing it.
I mean, that's awesome to hear. So let's move on a little bit to some crypto news. I'm going to share something here on the screen. If you just give me 1 second. Boom, here we go. So not too long ago, we've got the news that Binance CZ decided to step down as the board chairman of Binance. Binance US announced in a post on X, formerly Twitter, Tuesday that Binance founder and former CEO CZ is stepping down from the board of the Global Exchange's US affiliate. Of course, there's more to the story. We're not going to read too much into it, but what are your thoughts on this? Because Binance has been, the biggest dog in the space now for years, and I feel like the US regulators have been trying to take down CZ for quite some time. But I've seen the spin that this could, in theory, be bullish because they finally got the guy they wanted, and now we can move on. We can move forward from that point. But I'm not so certain. I feel like the exchange that had the most volume going through such tumultuous times. I don't know how much volume has dropped since CZ, if at all. But it does have me a little bit concerned. Is this something that I shouldn't be concerned about? Something you're concerned about, or do you think it's, or do you agree with the people that think it's actually a blessing in disguise and we can move forward?
Well, Ben and I had an argument on Crossfire. Crossfire is a show where Ben and I argue, and his stance was that it's good for BNB, the coin BNB, that this happened, and my stance was that it's bad for BNB that this happened. And I don't think. I mean, he's pretty good at arguing, and his argument was pretty bad. Like I don't think there's many scenarios where this is all right. Imagine Charles with Cardano.
Now, I agree with.
Imagine.
I definitely agree with that overall point that BNB, it's not good for BNB. I'll let you finish your thought on BNB, but I do want to. I'm curious on what your thoughts are on the effects on crypto more broadly, if at all. But definitely, let's talk about BNB real quick.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, that kind of represents that company. Like the performance of that coin is a pretty good representation of that company. So that's kind of the point the dots I was connecting there. But yeah, imagine Charles without Cardano, or Ethereum without Vitalik, so on. Right. But what confuses me about that is that he pled guilty. What do they have on him that we all don't know about? That's what I want to know. Because, dude, you don't just plead guilty, bro. You don't just show up and say, yep, it was me, Your Honor. Like, no, they have something on him, probably much, much bigger that no one knows about. And if the SEC has already made the comparison of, CZ's the next SBF, and we saw what happened to SBF. I saw it in real time. I was at the court hearing in the Bahamas for his extradition hearing. I was there, guys. Like, this is no joke. And, SBF, literally trading his fish for his haircuts in jail right now. They made an example out of SBF because, the legacy system is threatened of crypto, and they found a guy that made enough mistakes for them to throw him against the wall and make an example out of him. And now they're trying to connect this dot. If CZ did something remotely similar that SBF did, they're going to say, oh, he's another one of him. And then it sets a scary precedent for the other people that are running exchanges. If you do one little thing wrong, you're just another SBF. And it's terrifying. It's a terrifying standard.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's one of those things that the way the system works is, I do think you're absolutely correct, where they probably have something on him that's much greater than what he pled guilty to, but maybe it was not as certain of a case. Maybe it was something that was like maybe 70% certain that the US regulators were going to win. So he agreed to plead guilty to lesser charges, which happens all the time. You plead guilty to lesser charges to essentially make a deal, so that way you won't get in trouble for potentially the greater charges if they find you guilty. So I agree with that theory, honestly. I agree that there's a high likelihood that what the US regulators were at least going after was much more than what they ended up getting him to plead guilty on. And I'm curious on how it will play out. Like, will people lose trust in Binance? I know they've already shut their doors to the US, basically. I mean, there is Binance US, but I don't know. It's just it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. In my hopes is that in the long run, I kind of know in the long run, it really won't have an impact 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. But over the next year, it could. But hopefully long term, we move to decentralized exchanges. There are no centralized exchanges. Most of these exchanges hopefully will either go on chain or, just disappear over time. But
that'd be nice.
Curious to see how it unfolds. Right.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's also like so many like little things. Like, first of all, the $4 trillion dent that they didn't even have to sell crypto. And then there was a dinner where, high ups at Binance, the VIPs were informed about it coming before it happened. So there's like all this like behind the curtain dirty stuff plays going on. And Ben disagreed with my take on this, but I think that, you know, there's a small percent chance that I'm right about it, is that, you know, the SEC, the regulators of America have struggled trying to like lock down, like getting someone in trouble, like on things being a security, right? The XRP case, if XRP came out, if Judge Torres ruled it a security, that would have blasted the book wide open for the regulators to go after this crypto, this crypto, this crypto, this crypto. It would have been a shit show.
Absolutely.
But what I'm getting to here is that, you know, them going after Coinbase matters less because BNB has a token. And I feel like if they could kind of put Binance in a corner and somehow declare BNB as security, that's a backdoor way for them to open that book up that was shut in the XRP case. I think that's always what it's going to come down to, is them trying to back someone in a corner to make one thing a security so they can use that against everyone else. And I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. And, you know, even when you look at like the regulation this year specifically, I thought there'd be a little bit more that happens this year, especially at Bitcoin Miami. Senator Cynthia Lummis said that the stablecoin bill would happen first. Where's the stablecoin bill? Where's it at?
I mean, Congress is having a hard time getting anything done that doesn't funnel billions of dollars to their donors. So, I mean, it's to me, it's no surprise that nothing will get done. I don't think anything will get done until after the next election. And even then, it certainly depends on the makeup of the Congress after the 2024 election on what even gets done.
Right.
But I don't really expect too much to happen before then, at least from a regulation standpoint. But yeah, I largely agree that, you know, not only does Binance have a token, although they have distanced themselves from it over time. You know, there was Binance Smart Chain, then they just called it BNB Chain to kind of put that little bit, you know, a couple of degrees of separation between them and the chain. But I'm curious if they will decide with the new CEO to even distance themselves even more, just in case, because that is, I think, an attack vector. And like, not only is it, you know, a chain with a crypto, but it's like what, the fourth or fifth largest crypto by market cap currently, including stable coins, I believe. But so that's it would be a pretty hefty blow if they did decide to pursue that a little further. But I'm sure there are some people that hope that the attacks on Binance are over, but I don't think they are. I think the new CEO just is walking into something that is going to be very difficult to manage.
I could not agree more. What I've noticed trend here is that the regulators like to do punches and bunches. When I forget over the summer, punches and bunches, baby. Like, remember over the summer when it was like the Coinbase and Binance thing, where it was the next day. I forget which one happened first, if it was Binance and then Coinbase that the SEC went after. But the day of the first one on Blockchain Basement, I was like, guys, like these things always happen in bunches, and I wouldn't be surprised if another massive lawsuit comes out tomorrow. Sure enough, if it was the Binance one the first day, the Coinbase one came out the very next day. And I was like, see, I told you, punches and bunches. That's what they do, because they're trying to drive home this narrative. We're in crypto. We understand the truth of the matter, what's actually happening here. But these things make real news, headline news, prime time news stories. My dad knew all about BNB when I went home to Maryland, and he doesn't follow crypto, you know what I mean? But he watches the news. And the reason they do punches and bunches is because they're trying to drive the narrative to, you know, the everyday American, to make them think crypto bad. And if it's this story and this story and this story, and it piles up day after day after day after day, the average American is going to be terrified. That's what they're trying to do, punches and bunches.
And to some degree, it works. Honestly, I mean, I think it works a lot better when the crypto market is having a bear market. But it's harder to persuade people away from crypto when they see all their friends making a lot of money. So I do think these punches come pretty heavy during the bear market. I'm curious to see if they'll have any effect once the bull market's back, because sometimes news has little effect at all if the trend is strong enough. If the trend's strong enough, news sometimes is just almost irrelevant. And where other times it could be the complete opposite. If there's been no activity for quite some time, a big piece of news could send something either soaring or falling pretty drastically, depending on which way. But I do want to pivot a little bit. We talked about Coinbase a lot. I want to talk about Bitcoin ETFs, our speculation there. And then I'm actually curious, because we talked about Coinbase and I haven't thought about it too much, who do you think is going to be custodying the Bitcoin for these ETF approvals? Do you think they'll be custodied with an exchange like Coinbase? Do you think the Bitcoin ETF approvals, when they do happen, could benefit coin stock?
It's a really good question. I would imagine probably Coinbase would be my first guess, especially because they've been so adamant about doing everything by the book. But BlackRock, man, they just kind of own everything. I kind of feel like they're going to finagle some way to. We're dealing with some like serious FU money here, and I don't know if they're just going to hand the keys over to Brian anytime soon. So I think there might be some kind of new standard. Maybe even Fed now. Maybe it could be anything. I don't know. That's a wait and see kind of question. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'd like to know though.
Yeah, because I know a lot of institutions that try to hold Bitcoin usually do so through a third party, like the third party custody. There are even some bridges out there that have third party custodying their coins. So it's not really a fully on chain bridge, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, honestly. I do think a lot. Maybe you're right with the BlackRock ETF. Maybe they'll self custody somehow, and there's way to do that in a compliant way. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other companies that also have ETF approvals, and the speculation is once one gets approved, there'll likely be a bunch that get approved. It wouldn't surprise me if at least a handful of those ETFs, the underlying Bitcoin, was custodied by Coinbase. It's definitely something I'm going to look into more. Of course, we can't verify it here on this episode right now, but if that's the case, I think that could be an extreme benefit to the Coinbase stock.
Well, I mean, the Coinbase stock didn't just hit like an 18-month high like earlier this week or something like that. I mean, like the ETF, the pre-ETF hype is seriously astounding. The fact that we got over that big support resistance level, I think it was like 37.5 or 37.6 or something like that. The fact we got above that level and stayed above it, and had the largest weekly close in what was it 18 months. And then generally speaking, when October and November are green months, Bitcoin is a green month. That's happened, I think, 4 times since in the past 8 years or something like that. And like December has historically been a pretty big bullish month for Bitcoin. Kind of leading into the halving, it's very common to see that like accumulation, that markup phase as we get closer to the halving. And I mean, I think this month is going to be like some fireworks are going to go off, especially with the coins that if you miss the Solanas, you miss the chain links, that's okay because Bitcoin's trending up and the altcoins tend to follow it. So I've been like looking at the altcoins are doing okay, but haven't done Chainlink Solana numbers, but that are still going to like follow Bitcoin eventually. Like the coins that haven't exploded yet. In my mind, those coins are Algorand, those coins are HBAR, those coins are Quant, VeChain. Near will blow up even more than it has. I think that there's some like serious coins that like haven't put up the numbers yet that are about to. I think this month is going to be massive, to be honest with you. I'm loading up big time.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think this month in particular? Of course, as you mentioned, we're probably about 4 to 5 months, give or take, from the halving taking place, and a lot of people know what usually precedes the halving and then what proceeds the halving as well. Yep. We'll see if this time is the same. We don't really have any reason to believe this time will be any different. But why do you think December in particular will have those sort of effects?
Well, just look at like the value areas that Bitcoin like generally trades in. It's getting into the next like step of the staircase for sure. And a lot of times, altcoins tend to follow grandpa. And there's have been altcoins like that, like I've mentioned, like Solana, the chain links that have already kind of like bopped off the Caspas of the world. But then there's a lot of coins that are still like kind of, they feel suppressed. They feel like they're kind of lagging behind the rest of the market. And like with the ETF news, with the ETF coming, that hype is only going to juice the market. Like people try to tell me that there's not liquidity on the sidelines. Well, what about the liquidity that went into XRP the day the fake pump happened? There's definitely liquidity on the sideline. I'm not worried about that. The hype, the ETF is going to help Bitcoin, but it's also going to help all the coins that are about to break through critical support resistance levels to get them to the next step in the staircase too. And it feeling a lot like the perfect storm. I mean, I'm not saying like definitely 100% this month, but it's feeling good. Like going into 24, it feels real. And remember how good last January was? I mean, we could have like what feels like an early bull market. We've been talking about this a lot. It could totally happen.
Right. And last January was mid bear market, and it still had similar feelings as you mentioned,
Right.
where now, I mean, many argue we're back in the bull market. We're at least making higher highs and higher lows, which is a good sign that we're back in a bull market and we're preceding the halving. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. One of the things that you mentioned actually about liquidity that I agree with is, I think the argument that people are making is there doesn't seem to be too much liquidity in traditional markets, which I think is relatively accurate. Obviously, that's coming back. I mean, you see QQQ and SPY about 5% away from all-time highs, but there's still a little bit of a liquidity crunch in the traditional markets. But when you compare that to the crypto market, the last bull run that happened in 2020, the one that 2019 to 2020, the amount of stable coins that were the market cap of the stablecoin positions then compared to now, there's like a 10x difference. There's literally like 10x the amount of cash in stablecoins on the sidelines in crypto, at least. So I do think that there's going to be a bull run whenever it comes, likely more significant than the last, just because of those numbers.
For sure. I mean, for sure. But you also, this is another conversation that I like to have with people. So and some people will tell you that the day after the all-time low is the beginning of the bull market. So the day after the bottom, like when you look back in retrospect, right? When you look back at the previous bull runs, you're going to say, oh, there's the top, there's the bottom. And then when the next top is the 2021 bull run, November 21, was that the day after the previous low? Was that the beginning of the bull run? Like that some people kind of subscribe to that idea, where I don't. I kind of always kind of want to like define like, all right, like at what point in time, like at what number on this chart, like where does this technically, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a funny thing to think about.
In retrospect, it obviously makes sense because you're looking at it, it's like, all right, that was the lowest point. The chart's just going up to the right after that. I mean, maybe there was a sideways period or whatever at first, but in the moment, you can't think that way because you don't know if that was the lowest point.
Yep.
You know, you could be like, oh, well, this was the lowest point, since like yesterday, but like that doesn't necessarily mean next week it's going to be higher or lower from here. So in the moment, you can't really think like that. You really you only really can make those sort of judgments in hindsight is 2020, I believe they say.
Exactly. That's funny.
But yeah, let's talk. I want to actually get a little bit of speculation going for this Bitcoin ETF, because do you think it's going to happen by the end of the year? Of course, we only have 1 month left. Do you think it's going to happen in January, as many people are expecting? Or do you think it's going to be pushed back to maybe even after the halving? Do you have any speculation on the timing there?
I've heard a lot of things, man. I've read a lot of things. I know a bunch of people are saying before the new year. Some people are saying after the new year. I personally, it wouldn't surprise me to see it go after the halving, mainly because that would be the perfect storm. You know, like I am almost okay with that, to be honest with you. But regardless, there's also there's a theory going around that it's a sell the news situation.
I wanted to bring that up as well. What are your thoughts there? Because I have mentioned on the next block before my resignation over there that I don't necessarily subscribe to that idea, because a lot of people are comparing it to the futures ETF, and I think they're just woolly, like extremely different beasts. But what are your thoughts?
Some people kind of compared it to like the Ethereum merge, because the Ethereum merge was like the last really big hyped thing that really happened, but that wasn't opening the door for a spot position in the stock market. Kind of different, and with the futures ETF, that was like kind of what put us from October to November in 21, that the blow off top. So we definitely saw some, positivity out of that in 2021. But, I think that even it wouldn't surprise me if, 2 days after it happened, if Bitcoin corrected heavily, like 10% in one day. But I still think because of the exposure that it's allowing, it's opening up a whole new demographic of people to have exposure to Bitcoin. And that can only help us in the long run. Like accessibility is everything. And it's just going to open more doors. And when there's more doors, there's more people. So even if they try to trick us, which crypto will always try to trick you, I still think eventually it's going to be a net positive for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just reiterate my theory here is like the futures ETF, of course, is not a spot Bitcoin ETF. So when that happened, there was no institutional demand for the underlying asset of Bitcoin. They were basically trading a derivative of Bitcoin. You could trade basically as much as you want with almost no underlying Bitcoin. So really that wasn't changing the price, and it actually allowed the floodgates to manipulate Bitcoin more and put more downward pressure on it. So I do think it's almost exactly opposite where the spot Bitcoin ETF, of course, over time you could probably short it as well. You could probably get put options on it maybe in the future as well. But it'll create such a buying pressure when even companies allocate 1 or 2% of their portfolio over to a Bitcoin ETF. I mean, that'll have astounding effects. The stock market is, what, $40 trillion large. 1 or 2% of that is greater than the current market cap of crypto, I believe, or basically the same, or basically equivalent to. So, I mean, it's one of those things, right? I think it's apples and oranges, and I think a lot of the sell the news people might be upset when they're buying back a month or two later at higher prices.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is that I think it's going to take time, of course, but I think it's really going to start like a domino effect that kind of like further legitimizes crypto in the eyes of like the everyday American, like with Bitcoin ETF.
I mean, if I could. Good. I work at a news company, and I have a 401k with them. And if I was able to allocate 2% of that 401k straight into a Bitcoin ETF, that'd be fantastic. And I think there are a lot of people like me that would do exactly that. So to your point, it really does open up floodgates to a entirely new set of money that wasn't in the system before, unlike all of the other super hyped events like the Ethereum merge. Of course, it was a big event, but that didn't promise new money coming in. There was nothing. I mean, it maybe could have because it got people excited, but it was all a maybe.
Yeah.
Where the Bitcoin ETF is pretty much a guarantee, not necessarily a guarantee on how much will come in, but it is a guarantee that some new money will come in.
Yeah. Ben and I had an argument about this, like what's going to be better for XRP, the XRP, the Ripple IPO or the XRP ETF. Now, obviously, like, a Ripple IPO, like a market cap, Ripple's own stock market cap, that's one thing. But, XRP ETF, that's like injecting money into the actual coin itself. And, like I was saying, like, I think getting the Bitcoin ETF is going to take a step forward to legitimize crypto in the eyes of the everyday American. And then it's going to be, all right, well, what about the Ethereum one? And then if Ethereum gets one, all right, what about XRP? What about Solana? What about Chainlink? It's going to open the doors to, it's going to be insane. I think, 5 years out, it's possible.
I mean, my ultimate hope is that we don't have all of these individual ETFs, and we just have what you have in the stock market already, where you have sector ETFs, and you could buy one ETF that has maybe like 10% allocation to Bitcoin, 8% allocation to Ethereum, and it's just like a top 20
like a
Bitcoin ETF,
right?
And maybe there's a top 100, just like QQQ is the top 100 of the Nasdaq. We could have a top 100 crypto ETF, and that is what I think will really change the game. Honestly, the Bitcoin ETF itself, for me personally, I mean, I'll still just keep buying Bitcoin, but if there are full, like really nice ETFs that are like top 100 and maybe even managed ETFs by traders that actually show that they're pretty good, I think that could actually be a market event that could really catapult the crypto market into essentially maybe even 2 or 3 times its current market cap overall.
Totally. 100%. I mean, what we saw last bull run, like a little over 3 trillion. I think, according to plan, everything goes according to plan. I'm saying 7-10 this one for the next one.
I was about to say, I don't think 7 to 10 is too hard to predict. I think at some point, of course, during the bull market last time around, everyone was saying lofty numbers. And I do remember saying next time around, it'll probably hit 9 or 10. I think 7 to 10 is a better window, just so we're not wrong. But I think that'll largely happen, honestly.
Yeah. It's completely possible. Especially it's funny, like doing all like the previous price predictions I made at Hit Network. I did the price prediction department series, and I have like this list of all of them written down, and I like went back over that list like with, as I
Just to
started
see.
that series, I would add a little bit more to the formula every time to try to like get it down. Like, how do I do this every single time? So no matter what I do, it's going to be like a close prediction. And now I would basically use like previous dominance support resistance levels. And if the dominance level reached this level again for this coin, except the total market cap went from 7 to 10 trillion, there's your lower range, there's your higher range for each coin. That's how I did it. And then when I went back and looked at some of the coins I did early and I saw the price prediction I made, I'm like, oh shit. So, and it's really funny you say that. We were talking about Ethereum, price prediction for Ethereum. And I think my original prediction was like 13.3 to 19.1. And then I like went back and realized that like a 19.1 Ethereum's like a $2.5 trillion cap. But I'm just like, that's not going to happen. At least not this bull run. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think was possible for Ethereum?
I don't necessarily think it's impossible, but it certainly depends on how big the crypto market gets, because True. I don't necessarily think Ethereum will gain market share in the bull run. I think it'll probably maintain its dominance, whatever it's at. It'll probably maintain that percentage in the market. So ultimately, it depends on how big the crypto market is. If the bull run is big enough to push the market cap of the total market so high that Ethereum's current share equals that, right, I don't see it being impossible, especially because, I mean, let's see if we're going to look at it right now. I've got Ethereum over here. Let's see if I can pull it up quickly.
Right now, Ethereum's dominance is 17.6%.
Oh, it's 17? Okay, I'm on CoinMarketCap and it says volume in front of it. It says volume/market cap. Oh, that's 24 hours. Gotcha. Cool. So 17%.
Yeah, I'm looking at the ETH dominance chart. Yeah.
17%. Right. Yeah, I think it's possible, honestly. It's totally possible, but I think the crypto market would truly have to like triple or quadruple in order for Ethereum to get to those levels, which isn't impossible because the last bull run it tripled between the market cap of the bull run that topped out in 2017, 2018, and the one that topped out around 2020, 2021. There was about 3x of difference in the total market cap. So it could totally happen again where we have another 3x and go from 3 to 9 or 10. But yeah. that being said,
well, go ahead.
You can finish your thought. I was going to move on.
I was just going to say 17% of 7 trillion is 1.19 trillion. And then looking at the coin perspective, clicking Ethereum as fast as I can, 1.19 trillion market cap. So so we're looking about 9,200.
And that would be at the 7 trillion market cap range.
Yes, that's the lower end. So awesome. Yeah, so actually, about, just under 10,000. Yeah.
Just by doing a little bit of mental math, I guess that kind of makes sense. If Ethereum, like I said, maintains its market share around 17%, and the market overall gets to 7 to 10 trillion, your price prediction somehow could be pretty correct, actually.
Yeah. I recently, Ben's doing his, and I do like an overview on his video, and I actually publicly have changed it. Actually, you're hearing it first. To I think 7 to 10,000. I lowered it a little bit. I think 19 is too.
Yeah, 19 is a stretch. I will give you that. It's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that's a reach.
I think a lot of us are underestimating how much money could come in once these ETFs start going, because you make a very valid point that there's already Ethereum ETFs being applied for. So once that Bitcoin ETF happens and that Ethereum ETF happens, it opens up the floodgates, and I think it allows for a level of money to come in the space that has never happened before. I mean, it's really just been degens and crypto-centric people, and really people that are okay with putting their money in risky investments that may not be heavily regulated. But there's a larger swath of money out there that is waiting for clearer regulations, clearer guidelines, safer investment vehicles to get into. And yeah, I mean, I think there's also a possibility that all of our price estimates are too conservative this time around. But of course, I don't want to say that and get people's hopes up too much, because none of the things we say here are financial advice. But
yeah, Of course, 100%. Never financial advice, but a lot of people talk like the last halving, like getting in before the halving was like such a big deal. Like, oh, if you bought Bitcoin before the halving, like you became a millionaire, blah blah blah. That kind of narrative.
If
I
you held
think
it.
like the new right, if you held it right. I think the new narrative for the next batch of crypto millionaires is if you got in before the ETF.
I think that'll definitely be the next catalyst for the next explosion of crypto millionaires for sure. Absolutely. I couldn't refute that at all, honestly. So I'm going to move on a little bit to talk a little bit about some Algorand news. We've got some Algorand news coming out of the Algorand Global Summit, or the Algorand Impact Summit, excuse me, in New Delhi, India. I'm going to show a little video right here.
Well, I'm excited to welcome Robert Pasichka to the stage. Robert, you run the Alternative Finance Lab at UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, and we're here together today because we have an announcement to make you want to share with the audience here at the Impact Summit.
Yes, thank you for having me here. So at UNDP, we are present in over 170 countries and territories. And basically, we are supporting governments in 170 plus countries and territories. What we can see for the last several years is there is a growing demand from the governments to understand better how can blockchain, crypto, Web 3.0 influence their own digital strategies, their own development. And in order to be able to support them, we also have to invest in ourselves. And I'm super happy that we have kind of designed and soon be initiating Algorand Blockchain Academy for UNDP. And this is where we want to get our staff deeper involved to understand these concepts and to understand what are the implications for the development in our work. So I'm super happy for this. We are starting with our regional bureau for Europe and Central Asia, but also in Latin America, we will translate it to Spanish language. And after that, we are planning to our Tadamon project, NGO Empowerment Project, to open it up also for NGOs from our network, more than 34 countries at the moment.
Okay, wow, that's really exciting. I mean, I can just speak for the Algorand Foundation. We're super excited to partner with UNDP on the Algorand Blockchain Academy. When will the academy kick off?
So what we are hoping is that like something from February, March, we can already have the first cohort out. After we learn from some kind of, with this first cohort, we will be able to tweak it a bit. So to see what are the things that needs to be more smoother, or to add something more, or to maybe take something out. And then we hope that after May, June, it will be open for all the UNDP employees, over 22,000 people. So it will be additional possibility for them to get trained.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think this is huge news, and for anybody that follows Algorand knows that this is actually a tactic that they've had since the start, where they would actually, I mean, it started with universities. They'd start these educational programs where they'd get into a bunch of different universities and basically create a blockchain education course where the students were learning about blockchain for the first time, but about the Algorand blockchain, how to build smart contracts, how to build applications, and all the things of the sort. And this is really an extension, in my opinion, of the long game here. I mean, Algorand's criticized for not creating hype in the short term, but what happens when you create a situation where there's tens of thousands, maybe millions of people who learn blockchain for the first time and how to code on blockchain for the first time on Algorand? Sure, it might not show the fruits in the next year or so, but in the long term, in the long run, when there's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, depending on how big this newly launched Algorand Academy gets, provided by the United Nations Development Program, it could be something where literally there's tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people that are learning Algorand for learning how to code on a blockchain, and that blockchain happens to be Algorand. What do you think of this development? Do you think this is a good long-term strategy? Do you think they should focus on something else? What are your thoughts?
I think they're definitely playing the long game with this one. I mean, there's always the questions about developers. There's always the questions about, are they doing the right kind of marketing? We've had these conversations time and time again. I think they're definitely playing the long game. I haven't talked to John or anything since this has come out. And I'm actually kind of interested to learn about more of the details of this, because I know with now Algorand, you can I know it's coded in teal, but you can do it on Python and eventually other programming languages. So like, which programming languages are they teaching it in? Is it going to be in Teal, or like the Python that gets converted back to Teal is essentially what they do with like some waterfall type of technique? I don't know how to code. That's just what I've heard.
Right.
But I'm interested a lot about like, like how they're going about it. And, like saying like, you're going to learn about a class, but we don't know like what it looks like, and I don't know if they're going to do any like virtual type classes. You can like kind of sit in on one, like to see like, to get a feel for how they're going about it, like that kind of thing. But I don't think it's a waste of effort. I think, education, especially in the crypto sector, is everything. My whole crypto journey is about the constant pursuit of education. So they're giving people a chance,
I'm curious if it'll even be an open educational platform, because the way at least that video made it seem, is that it's going to be more catered towards, of course, the UNDP, which has about 22,000 employees, as well as NGOs, non-government organizations, and governments around the world. So to me, this, of course, it would be great if eventually the UNDP opened up the academy, the Algorand Academy, to the public, or if that's already the plan, that's fantastic. But to be able to train basically the United Nations Development Program, as well as maybe tens or hundreds of countries around the world and non-government organizations on your blockchain, I do think could eventually show fruits of some really interesting applications coming out of these non-government organizations, and as well as coming out of these various countries that end up learning the platform. But yeah, you bring up some really good questions on what they'll exactly be learning. I mean, there are more choices now for the coding language. So, are they going to be learning a few of them, or they're going to be, you do bring up some good questions.
That is more semantical stuff, and kind of like, like my knee jerk reaction to ask. But really, honestly, I'm pretty big on the idea, because like you and I both know that it really only takes like one really determined, focused person to literally change the world. And they're like, offering this educational opportunity to thousands and thousands of people. And really all it takes is a handful of those students that, learn on Algorand to maybe create an application or whatever that changes the game. So I think they're helping out to help themselves. I think it's a really smart long-term move on them, for sure.
Absolutely.
What they do. They're always about the long game. We know this.
They are. And sometimes they get criticized for it because they're not creating that hype in the short term. But, I think the fruits of it will pay off in the long run, honestly, because we've seen over the last 2 cycles, some of the most hyped coins end up, disappearing into obscurity, or, by the time the next bull run happens. So, it might be great during that one bull run, but sometimes you don't want to be the most hyped coin.
Well, and, I think that in their case, when you have tech that good, like when you literally have like the best product, like in the Algorand video that I made on my channel a little while ago, is like, it's kind of being like you're a runner as fast as Usain Bolt, but you didn't make it to the Olympics because you got beat in a popularity contest. That's what it's like for Algorand. Like they are the Usain Bolt of, technology stacks in crypto, like the top tech. Like it's pretty, there are arguments, but like without a doubt, top 3.
Right.
In my opinion, without a doubt, top 3, in my opinion.
And even if you want to give it some wiggle room, I mean, I think top 5 to 10 technology out there is definitely, easy to argue. And you're absolutely right. The prices don't necessarily correlate to that sort of strength. So it's not necessarily winning on merits, because I believe Algorand is now market cap 51 out of what, tens of thousands of cryptos that are out there now. But I do agree. I do think it's like a top 10, top 5 technology, but we have the wrong judges at the Olympics.
Yeah, for sure. The wrong judges, for sure. And I also, I'm pretty sure that they do care a little bit more about hype marketing than people would like to think they do.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that with the rebrand idea that has kind of been touted around a little bit at Algorand, I think that next year they're going to pull some rabbits out of the hat, and that they're going to come correct next year. I've talked to John and some people on the team about their plans. And I think that they might surprise a lot of us next year on what they're going to do moving forward. Now, even with this coming out, they're just kind of just snowballing momentum right now. And I think it's going to be pretty soon. They're going to roll it down the hill. So I'm excited to see how fast it goes.
Absolutely. I mean, of course I have I have some connections behind the scenes, and I kind of agree with you. I think everything, they hear the criticism. That's ultimately what it is. They hear the criticism and they're adjusting, and that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to criticize and see it being heard, and see some changes from that. And I do think they're performing. I do think they're going to surprise a lot of people, both on in a tech side. I do think there's going to be some more things coming out in 2024 on the tech side of things that are really interesting. And I do think the marketing side of things is also going to ramp up in 2024. But we're closing up on the end of our time here, and I want to just get your thoughts. We talked about it briefly before, but what are your top, like maybe let's say top 10 cryptos that you're watching? If we pull up CoinMarketCap right here, we can see, let's see if I can pull it up. If we pull up CoinMarketCap right here, we can see that today is kind of a boring day. I mean, Bitcoin overall for the day has been up about 2.5%, 3%, Ethereum 2%, BNB 0.4%. So pretty flat day overall. But what are you seeing out there? What are you buying? Are you selling anything? Are you just holding? What are you doing?
Sure. So once a week on my channel at AJWritesCrypto, I put out a weekly portfolio video. I missed the one last week because I was doing Thanksgiving with my family, but I doubled down on it. That video will come out tomorrow. And I'm doing 2 public portfolios. One of them is a $750 to $1,000 a week DCA, and the other one's a $50 to $100 a week DCA. So it's 2 different portfolios. Some people follow, some people just like to see what I'm doing. And basically, I do a lot of like kind of portfolio breakdowns, rating portfolios, kind of stuff like that on my morning live stream on Monday through Friday. And, a lot of times I'm really big on trying to help people align their goals with their coin selection. So if your goal is to 20x and, your portfolio is really top heavy and 40% of your bags is split between Bitcoin and Ethereum, you're not going to 20x, my friend. It's just not going to happen. So really it's kind of about like defining like what your goal is and then working your coin selection around making that goal. If you're someone who's a millionaire, you have 6 figures, you want to play it safe, you'd be happy to double or triple your money. Sure. Bitcoin, Ethereum all day long. Someone like me who doesn't really care, who wants to swing for the fence, who wants to own a Lamborghini one day, 1 blue, 1 pink, 1 red. For me, I'm really cool not ever holding Bitcoin or Ethereum, and I don't. XRP and Cardano, they are my Bitcoin and Ethereum, especially when you look at, Ethereum's market cap is $200 billion with a B, larger than BNB's market cap, which is one coin behind it if you don't count the stable coins. So think about how much money has to go into Ethereum's market cap for you just to double your money. Insane amount of money. So then when you kind of scroll down the list a little bit and you start seeing all the coins from basically, Caspa under with 2 billion, 1.5 billion, 1 billion market caps, what's going to double first, Ethereum or HBAR? What's going to double first, Bitcoin or Algorand? So my whole mindset is about, kind of having an even distribution, but heavy allocation of the coins I think are winners. The coins I think are winners off the top for the safer picks, XRP, Cardano, Chainlink. I would like to say Solana, but I missed it. I missed the train, and I'm okay with missing that pump because all the VCs that own it kind of scare the hell out of me. So there's like my large caps. So there's 3, HBAR, Algorand, Quant, Near, VeChain, Singularity Net, and the Graph for some 2 AI picks, because I think having some AI picks is basically mandatory. So Absolutely. There's my top 10.
Yeah, honestly, in 2017, I got into Singularity Net, and I totally regret getting rid of it. Honestly, I could have just been building that bag. I mean, for years, it didn't do anything. It had a pop, obviously, in 2017 when the market did. But eventually I just thought it was a dead coin, especially because it was from 2017 up until basically 2020, where there really was like no public developments in AI. It seemed like it was much more of a longer game than it was promised in 2017 when it came out. But then all of a sudden, 2020, 2021, or whatever, 2022 maybe, ChatGPT came out. And ever since then, everything AI related, even NVIDIA in the stock market, it's just gone through the roof. So definitely definitely kicking myself in the ass on that one a little bit.
Yeah, totally, dude.
But
I think that Ben Gritzel and what they're building, like if you ever looked at the beta net of like the marketplace for AGIX, like all the programs that are eventually going to be in full force, bruh. We thought ChatGPT was cool. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, honestly, it's the AI revolution. Now that it's here and now that you can kind of see it unfolding, it's so easy to see that it's going to be bigger than we can even imagine currently.
Yep.
But even just a few years ago, it was hard to even see that because there was no inklings of anything that you could even test out and be like, oh wow, this is a next step in technology. This is like not just like, oh, this is a new iPhone, it's got a better camera. It's like, no, this is something new. Like this is revolutionary in a way. But I'm excited.
And to sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off, but to piggyback what you just said, like, you know, we're all into crypto, right? We're all about the future of finance, the future of technology. And, you know, we finally got our hands on ChatGPT. We see how ridiculous having accessibility to AI is, and you're not going to have an AI pick in your portfolio.
That's fair.
What? That's fair. What do you mean you're not going to have an AI pick? I like the graph and I like AGIX, and I'm fine with like splashing like Ocean and FET and Athena. I think one was that I looked at a little while ago. I think FET is going to be one that is probably people shouldn't sleep on. There's going to be more of them popping up over time too, but the main four, I like the graph, AGIX, Ocean, and FET for sure.
You said 3, but then named 4.
Well, I added the graph. The graph is kind of like on the wobble there. I know.
But yeah, honestly, I think this has been a fantastic discussion. I think if people want to check out your portfolio, you said it drops tomorrow, your next video. However, this video might come out tomorrow. So by the time you're watching it, it could already be out there. If it is, check out the video description down below. I'll leave a link to AJ's YouTube page. Check out all his videos. Give him a subscribe. And AJ, I really appreciate you coming on the show, having this conversation with me, breaking down your thoughts on all the things we talked about today.
Sure. Anytime, man. Come on my live stream sometime. I live stream Monday through Friday. While I'm traveling, doing like Art Basel in Vegas, but I still will do live streams. Awesome. I'll probably do. Yes. Are you going to Art Basel?
No, unfortunately not. When is it?
We leave Wednesday and we get back Sunday.
Yeah, that's too soon. It wasn't on my radar. I don't know how I missed it, but next event you got to go to, just let me know. Reach out in the DMs. I'll see if I can make it, and I'll be happy to join your show. Again, anytime. Also just reach out and I'll try to hop on.
Anytime, yeah. Well, I'm doing I have someone on Wednesday, but if you want to jump on Monday or Tuesday this week, anytime, open door for sure.
What time do you go live?
10:30 a.m. EST.
I could make it Monday. Yeah, let's talk in DMs. We'll chat it out.
Perfect. Awesome, man. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I do want to say that you were one of the people that really like extended the olive branch to me early on in my experience here. And I really just want to take a second to say thank you for having my back and continuously having my back and being a good, solid, rock strong person in this space for the time I've known you. So hell yeah, dude, keep going.
I appreciate that. I'm excited to be back. This is the first this is the first video on my channel now in maybe 3 or 4 months since, I was working with the Next Block. Excited to be back on my own channel. We've got, I don't know, honestly, I probably have half a dozen to maybe even a dozen interviews lined up for the next month. So we're going to be pumping out some conversations, talking to some really interesting people and doing what we do best. So AJ, I appreciate those kind words. I appreciate you hanging around. We're going to end this recording. If you could just stick around for about, maybe a minute or two afterwards, that'd be fantastic. Yep. Everyone like and subscribe. Go to AJ's YouTube page, AJWritesCrypto. It's right behind him. Same thing with his Twitter or X platform. Go give him a follow on both of those platforms. Are you on anything else? You got Patreon or a newsletter or anything like that?
No, I'm writing what I am calling the playbook at the moment, which is going to be like my master class. I'm a writer and I want to be remembered as a writer. So I have to
AJWritesCrypto.
So I'm going to have kind of some micro content leading up to what I'm now titling in my mind, the playbook. And the playbook is going to be everything you've would have ever needed to know or have known about trading crypto, anything ever.
Perfect.
It's going to be dense. And I'm probably going to integrate like small batch master class kind of things around it too. It's going to take some time, but for right now, just X and YouTube's fine with me.
Fantastic. Go give them a follow. Keep your eyes peeled for that, for that fantastic, basically write-up of everything you need to know for crypto. We'll see when that happens, and like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Appreciate it, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen.